Couple
All right, boys,
beauties.
here we go. All right. How you doing, folks? Ron Raymond here from the Raymond Report, along with Chip Chirimbes and Ross Benjamin for a college football Thursday, December 10th. Hopefully everybody's having yourself a good start to your day. And at this time, I'll bring in our experts, Chip Chirimbes and Ross Benjamin. How you doing, fellas?
Good morning, Ron.
Wonderful.
Ross, so, hey, how are things going out there in the upper state New York these days?
Yeah, you know what? It's cold. So as you can imagine, you're not too far from me. You're a bit north of me, but still, we're looking at temperatures in the 30s. But the community is in good spirits here with the Buffalo Bills, 9-3 right now, and taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday night. National TV. Looks like a bad weather game, guys. So keep an eye on that if you're a totals player.
All right, just tell the mayor to hang on to that parade there, route. We're not ready for that route yet.
Still 9-3. Hey, man, you know, after suffering through some terrible seasons over the last 3 decades, if you got room to gloat here, it's enjoy it while it lasts kind of thing.
Yeah. Last time we looked, they didn't hand out Super Bowls in December, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Chip, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, and each and every day we're looking for new games and new winners and big football schedule this weekend. Even tonight, we've got some great football games.
Oh yeah, for sure. Looking forward to that Thursday night, and we got a couple of college football games. And talking to you guys off air, doing a little bit of digging into the stats, man. Rushing the football really pays off. Looking at the top 5 teams that per rush this season. So we're talking about Buffalo, Air Force, Cincinnati, Arizona State, and Kent State. They are combined 18-5, and they're averaging about 6.2 when you all those teams together. But Buffalo, obviously, with that big game, Patterson had 7.2 yards. Man, 18-5. When you rush the football, good things will happen. And when you throw the football, not so much. Teams that tend to have a lot of passing plays in their arsenal, teams like Mississippi State, Purdue, LA Monroe, Louisiana Monroe, Nevada, and Troy. Well, Nevada is pretty good, but the top 3 aren't so much. They got a combined record of 15-26. So, like I said a couple of times during the week, when I go to football clinics, they say you throw to score and you run to win. And obviously, running the football does help to win. All right. Having said that, we're going to go right to the game between Nevada and San Jose State. And man, we got a pretty good one here. You got 2 teams up in the Mountain West who are in the sea. Looking at the standings, 6-1 for Nevada, 5-0 for San Jose State. San Jose State having a really good year. Brent Brennan, the head coach, 5-0 this season. And looking at his record at San Jose State the last 4 years, we say it all the time, right? Sometimes it takes time to build a program. He's 13-29, but he's off to a good start. Ross, anything you like about this game here between San Jose State and Nevada?
Yeah, it's the biggest game San Jose State has played, arguably, in their recent football history, if you stop and think about it. Yeah, they've been Chip brought it up to me yesterday on our show that how well San Jose State has done against the number in recent seasons. But, now they're a short favorite, in the abundance of games they covered in recent seasons has been as an underdog. So they're in a little bit of a different role here. And boy, oh boy, Ron, if somebody would have told me that Nevada and San Jose State would be playing for basically the Mountain West title or opportunity to play in a Mountain West championship game in early December, and one team was be 6-1 and the other 5-0, I would have told you you're nuts. But that indeed is the case, and it's pleasantly surprising, to be honest with you, Ron.
No, it is. And looking at this matchup now, the San Jose State, I'm seeing 2.5 and the over-under at 58.5. The strength of San Jose State is their rushing offense. They're averaging 151.8 yards per game, 5th in the conference. For Nevada, they're not too bad about stopping the rush. They're ranked 4th, giving up only 120 yards against. But the scoring defense for San Jose State only allowing 17 yards against this season, which is 3rd in the conference. The way I look at this game, and in passing offense, both are right there, 2 and 3 in the standings. This is going to boil down to the San Jose State's running game, and if Nevada can stop them, it might be worth a look here. Early lean for me, I think San Jose State, but like you said, now that they're going in as a favorite, it's a whole different mentality going into this game. What do you think, Chip?
I like the matchup entirely. And if you're looking for some kind of trends, you're going to come to a brick wall because both teams have done so well. Nevada's 5-0 against the points as a dog. They've only had one loss when they went to Hawaii. They got beat 24-21. And, you know, they came back and they beat Fresno. And usually after that long trip, teams struggle from Hawaii, going to Hawaii and coming back from Hawaii. But they managed to come up big last week. So I have a little edge toward Nevada here. You know, they're 11-5-1 in the last 17 meetings against the Poinsettias, of course. But the home team has won 4-0-1 in the last 5. And like I said, San Jose 5-0 at home. And, you know, Ross had mentioned how well they do against the conference, 16-5-2 within the Mountain West on San Jose. So you can turn your head either way, like a lighthouse, I guess, here, shining the light on one side, then shining the light on the other. But I think basically with this line being so low and the Spartans being at home, I lean toward the Wolfpack here. I like Nevada in this game. I think they have a lot of character, and I know San Jose's in a new spot for them. They are not accustomed, I think, to playing for the conference championship.
No,
Hey,
I think
Ron,
you're right.
can I add something in? Because you opened my eyes to something when you mentioned San Jose defensively, allowing only 17 points per game. They've allowed 24 or less in all 5 games this year, 17 or less in 4 of their 5. And they've gone under the total in 4 or 5, including their last 3. And then if you flip the script there, Nevada has gone under the total in each of their 3 road games this year. So if you're a totals player, you might want to give that total, which seems to me a bit high, 58.5, with all things being considered.
Yeah, no, it's that's a good point. And the total, especially when you got the only thing with Nevada though, they're ranked 7th in the conference, 21.9. Yeah, no, it's that's a good point. The forecast does go with Nevada here, 31-28, the over under at 59.1. So it's right there, right on the button. The value index, both teams have great value. We had San Jose at -14. We had Nevada at -9. So if you want to take that plus money, Nevada looks really good in this spot. And the fact that San Jose's covered a spread, very well this year. I got 5-0, I think, or 4-1. Just more feed issues here at ATS Stats.
Yeah, they're 4-0-1 against.
4-0-1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think for me personally, I don't think I'm going to touch this game, but both of you guys made good points on a good case for either one. But I think Nevada, they're going to have to stop the run for San Jose this weekend. All right, another interesting matchup here. We got Wisconsin taking on Iowa. This one has Wisconsin. The thing with Wisconsin, it seems like every game's a bowl game for them because they don't play. It's that type of year, right? We're going every year. You just don't know what's going to happen. Going into this game, though, Wisconsin, because of lack of games they're playing, they're 2-2 on the year. They're ranked number 1 on defense in many of the categories, giving up 12.3 a game. Defensively on the pass, 157, only 72 yards rushing against, and up against that Iowa rush offense, who averages 177 yards per game, ranked 5th in the conference. This one has a pretty good making. It's in Iowa, and the bookmakers have made the Badgers here a 1-point favorite. The over-under at 41.5. I don't know what line you guys are seeing. Maybe it's changed since the last time I looked. But I got Wisconsin winning 27-21 according to the computer ratings. But I don't know. It seems to me Iowa is just ever since that loss to Purdue, they've been playing some really good football. Chip?
As a matter of fact, Iowa dropped their first 2 games and has come out and won the last 5 in a row. And Russ and I have discussed the fact that they opened up such a small favor, and now they're an underdog to this Wisconsin team, which is 1-2, and yet lead the nation in total defense and yardage surrendered. Wisconsin's a really tough team, but offensively, they've just fallen apart completely. They really haven't done anything. I think they only come up with 7 against Northwestern, and last week Indiana really stifled them offensively completely. But the bookmaker has made them a favorite now here, or the money has moved them into the favorites role. And I think it's time. It might be a spot for Wisconsin to come up big just off of that number. It just doesn't make too much sense. Maybe Ross can give me a better explanation as to why Iowa has become an underdog at home after winning 5 straight.
Guys, I can't make much sense of it at all. We're looking at a Wisconsin team that's lost their last 2 games to Northwestern and Indiana, scored a combined 13 points in those 2 games. And they're facing a team that's won 5 in a row. Their only 2 losses this year, like Chip alluded to, was in their first 2 games, and those came by a combined 5 points. So and you see this line move from its opening number of 3 for Iowa to 1 for Wisconsin. And Ron, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I look at the injury report to see if maybe there's something in the Iowa injury report or something's going on COVID-wise with Iowa. I don't see that. There's no indication of that. It smells like a rat to me. Somebody knows something we don't know, obviously.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe strength of schedule. You look at Wisconsin's last couple of opponents, Indiana, Northwestern, 2 teams in the Big Ten that are having a pretty decent season. Northwestern, though, offensively are challenged in some aspect, but defensively you can put them up there in the conference. I look at Wisconsin and ranked 10th passing, averaging 201 yards on offense, passing the ball, but they can run the ball. They're ranked 3rd in the conference, rushing for 199 yards. And looking at Iowa's defense, rush defense, ranked 3rd. So the only thing I can say here is that maybe the strength of schedule compared to Iowa's last 3 games, Penn State, Nebraska, Illinois, is the only reason why maybe this money has shifted towards Wisconsin. And again, it's Iowa, right? So I'll have to check the weather on the weekend. But I don't know how Wisconsin, if Iowa is able to stop the run and forces Wisconsin to throw the ball, then Wisconsin's in trouble.
Yeah, I think Wisconsin needs to avoid turnovers too. I mean, in this recent 2-game losing streak I just touched upon, they've turned the ball over 7 times in those 2 games, and we're at a -5 turnover differential. Hard to win against anybody when that occurs, Ron. And then you look at the other side of the coin. During this 5-game win streak, Iowa is a +8 in the turnover department. So again, winning a turnover battle in this game will be key.
Absolutely. Any leans to the total in this one, guys?
It's a tough call for me, Chip. I know you're not a totals player, but go ahead.
No, I was thinking probably the looking to play the under. Iowa's going 7-2-1 to the under in their last 10 at home. And Wisconsin has that great defense so far, which is really, like you said, Ross, if it wasn't for all their turnovers, maybe it'd be a different story right now or a different scenario for the Badgers. Their defense has been great all season long, still ranked number 1 in the country. So I would have a tendency to think it's going to stay under.
The only thing that bothers me there, guys, is, 41.5 for a total. That's extremely low for college football. You know what I mean? So, but again, you make sense, Chip. You look at Wisconsin's 4 games this year, they've allowed 17 points or fewer in all 4 of those games.
There you go.
Yeah. The last 3 years when the total's been 41.5 for the home team, it's 7-3 to the over. So that's an interesting little number, a little contrarian number against that way of thinking. But again, looking at Iowa in their last 10 overall head-to-head matchups with Wisconsin, only 3-7 straight up, 5-5 against the number, 5-4-1. So no, it's going to be an interesting match. And speaking of Big Ten, and we'll get to the other game in just a second. Ohio State getting in, good or bad call from the committee for that rule change? Or do I see another show here?
Oh boy, you really want to hear this?
Yeah, since we know Ross
Chip,
is already
I'll
sitting
let
on
you
the
comment
cactus
first.
this morning. Hey, since we know Ross is already sitting on the cactus this morning.
I don't know. I don't know if you talked to. I know I have. I'm sorry, Ron. I love you, buddy. You know
I
that.
know. I just like you say, ball busting right now.
Chipper, do you? Chipper,
Well,
do you want to make a comment on that first?
All right. As a former educator, 8 years in a public high school as a teacher, I can say that these are the biggest hypocrites in the country. They make a rule. They don't like the rule. They break the rule. And you want to get into college, slip somebody some money, and you're in. So I'm not too happy with the NCAA. And Ross and I had a big discussion about this yesterday, thinking that all of these football and these schools ought to just leave the NCAA completely and make their own leagues, because their rules sometimes are so ridiculous, with suspensions, people being suspended for going home and seeing their going to a funeral of their parents. And they're just, it's sort of like you give people power that just don't know what to do with it, and then they just run rampant trying to enforce new rules and new regulations. And they did it to themselves. They made regulations about Ohio State, who may be one of the top 4 teams in the country, but they haven't been able to prove it on the field as of yet. When you play 3-4 games an entire season, when you have other clubs, Florida playing 8 and 9, if Florida ends up being 10 and 1 and going against Alabama, we had mentioned this, Ross, and they beat Alabama, what are you going to do? You're going to just say, okay, Ohio State, you're in. You're 3-0, you're in. The Board of Education has certainly turned the athletics upside down.
Yeah. What's this? Scott Frost, UCF, line 1.
Oh boy. Okay. Let me take a deep breath, and I'll try to make this as short as possible with hitting the points that I want to make. First of all, they go into the year, so the listeners and viewers understand what we're talking about here. Before the season started, the College Football Playoff Committee got together and said, this is an unprecedented season. There's a very good chance that some teams are going to play 10 to 12 games this year, and others may play around 6 to 8. How do we handle this? How do we handle it in terms of voting at the end of the year for the top 4 teams? Well, they came up with the equation that you had to play at least a minimum 6 games to be considered for the college football playoff. So now we go into this week, and Ohio State scheduled to play Michigan. And as Chip astutely brought to my attention, don't you think that Michigan would like nothing better than to stick it to Ohio State? And of course, Herb, whatever his name is, Herb Street, the former Ohio State quarterback on ESPN, also touched upon the same point. Lo and behold, Michigan does have COVID issues, and guess what? They canceled the game. So now Ohio State is stuck with just 5 games. Now, I'm not saying they're not worthy of being in the college football 14 playoff. Look, they still got to win the Big Ten championship game, which they should be a huge favorite against Northwestern. But having said that, if you want to make that change, now they went in this week yesterday and said, okay, we're going to revoke that, and we're going to allow Ohio State to be considered in light of their 5-0 record and their current ranking in the national rankings, and where we have them currently ranked as a college football playoff committee. Now, if you're going to do that, then why not open the tournament up to at least 8 teams, okay? Because now you're making an exception to your rules at the last minute, and you have teams that have played a more strenuous schedule, such as Florida, Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame. Those 4 teams. What happens now if Clemson beats Notre Dame and Florida beats Alabama? All 4 of those teams would have 1 loss, and Ohio State at 5-0 is going to be one of the teams they'll be 6-0 because they're going to beat Northwestern in the Big Ten title game, unless something unforeseen happens. Now, one of those 4 teams I just alluded to, Florida, Alabama, Clemson, or Notre Dame, is going to be left out of the tournament. So this brings me to this. This 14 playoff is a farce, okay? And the reasons why they keep it at 4 teams in Division I is a farce. It's all about money. Because when your explanation to me is we keep it at 4 teams because we don't want to expand it because it's during the kids' testing time. Okay, excuse me, my mic just dropped. That's how riled up I am. Division II, Division III, and the FCS teams all fall under the heading of NCAA. Their playoffs, 24 teams, all 3 divisions. Okay, the top 8 teams get a bye. The other 16 teams play the first round, and then it gets down to 16 teams, and they go from there. They play a 10-game regular season. Now, let me ask you this, guys. In light of what I just said, the NCAA's excuse for not expanding Division I playoff system is because of the testing. Is the testing at the University of Rochester, which is a Division III school, any tougher than it is at Oregon? Okay, those kids are going through the same protocols, and they're just the most hypocritical organization in sports, the NCAA. And I agree with Chip, and we've heard some whispers of this. The smartest thing college presidents can do right now at Division I universities is say, hey, you know what? We want to separate from the NCAA. Let's just form our own system. Let's form our own conglomerate, and we'll control everything that goes on and leave the NCAA out of it, because the NCAA is a greedy organization. They're a hypocritical organization. They're a crooked organization. And that's all I got for you, Ron.
Hey, being a military guy, rules are rules. You break rules in the military, you're doing a hatless dance. And hatless dance is like you're going to court. And the thing in being a team player, we're in a team sport. I'm a little surprised the FBS and the college football system put Ohio State. They saw this coming a couple of weeks ago, and they didn't, protect them by saying, okay, you know what? Before this hits the fan, we need to maybe go to 16-team tournament, so that way we don't put all the focus and all the attention on Ohio State, because now we're it doesn't look good for the whole system if Ohio State have to defend themselves. And it's a COVID year. I understand that, but I think the college football system didn't help Ohio State by going out and protecting them a bit.
Yeah, I agree, Ron. I agree.
And this is what you do in sports. You protect your own type thing. You do that in life. And I think the college football system didn't do Ohio State. They left them out there on an island alone, and they said, sink or swim, boys. But we're sticking to 4 games. And here's the thing: Ohio State is playing in the Big Ten. The Big Ten's not having a good year this year. And look what happened when they face Indiana at home to Indiana. Yeah. What do you think's going to happen when they face Clemson? They face Alabama, or they face Notre Dame. Notre Dame. Yeah. They're going to get waxed. Like, they don't have the team, I think, this year, any team in the Big Ten, to compete against some of these SEC teams, even ACC teams. And I think a team like Florida might be a better out than Ohio State. That's my point.
Ron, I'd just like to say, of course, anyone working with the NCAA is trying to prove they're the smartest man in the room each time they're together. And of course, what they know about athletics. Well, anyway, let me just say that I lost my train of thought. How's that? No,
that'll do it, eh? No, but I think I know where you're going with that. It's just the NCAA didn't step up here, and then when you're supposed to be one big happy football family. And they left them on an island, and they saw this weeks ago. And I'll bet you put Coastal Carolina or any of those Sunbelt teams, I bet you they give them a run for their money.
You know what I wanted to say, Ron? I'm sorry. I just
go ahead,
regroup my thoughts. I'm sorry, Ross.
Okay.
I was kind of impressed with Ohio State, even though they lost that game to Indiana last week. I saw a lot more speed than I had anticipated on. They're really able to move the ball and score points. They got out to a big lead there, and everyone made such a big deal of Indiana's big comeback. But Ohio State always had that game in hand until the very last minute. But when they were threatened by a 90-yard drive that might tie the game. I think Ohio State might be a little better than people are giving them credit for. They just haven't had a chance to showcase. And I think they're a lot faster than I had anticipated they were earlier in the year.
Let me say this, Ron, you make a good point, because I want to make it clear. This isn't a vendetta against Ohio State. It's one against the NCAA.
Yeah.
And you're right, Ron. People can't take it out on Ohio State. They can only play what's scheduled upon them. And it's not their fault the Big Ten decided they were going to cancel the season and then change their mind because they got so much public backlash. And now they have a shortened season, and now you put one of your teams in this kind of position, in a valuable spot, which is a spot in the college football playoff. I think Ohio State's every bit as good offensively as they've been with their dominant teams in recent memory. Defensively, they're not there, not in comparison to past teams that have been successful. So I will say that. And again, the conspiracy theorist out there with this thing with Michigan, Chip, that we talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
Certainly that gives them a lot to prey on, because that's the first thing that people are going to say. Michigan stuck it to them. They could have played that game. They've lost 8 in a row. Harbaugh can't beat Ohio State. They want to save Harbaugh's job, so they got the game canceled so he doesn't have to go through a bad year and then lose to Ohio State again. Again, when people make everything a conspiracy, like I always say, they're not paranoid. It's just everybody's after them.
Yeah, and I know as a coach, I always say, who's protecting the game, right? The game is not Jim Harbaugh. The game's not Day. The game's not Ohio State, Michigan. It's the game of football. Who's protecting and the game of football?
The integrity of the game. Yeah.
Even in Canada, we're like that. It's like who's watching out for the game of football these days? Yeah. And right now, I'm very concerned at all levels of football in the States, in high school, college. Pros. I don't think, we got to take care of the game, because the game has given so much on every aspect to everybody, coach, player, bettors, everything. Anyways. All right, let's get to this game between the Tar Heels and the Hurricanes. Yeah, I know, right? That's a smooth transition right there, right? Miami -3, taking on North Carolina. A North Carolina team, believe it or not, the number one passing team, completion team in the, better than Clemson, completing 69% of their passes, ranked number 2 in the conference at 315 yards, number 2 in scoring. And that's because Clemson is there. Take away Clemson, North Carolina is a really the talk of the town here in the ACC. Now they're going against Miami. Miami, you know what? Since that NC State game, man, I'm telling you, this Miami team, they figured it out. They're learning how to win. And Manny Diaz has done a really good job at the U right now. And but he's going to have his hands full this weekend against Mac Brown and the North Carolina Tar Heels. Ross, what's your thoughts, your early indication on this game? -3 for Miami.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that pass completion thing to Chip, because I know he likes sophomore quarterback Sam Howell of North Carolina. I'll let him elaborate on that a little bit.
Is that I don't know if you're being sarcastic or serious.
No, because we talked about this yesterday.
Okay.
No, not at all. I can understand why you would feel this way today. Like you said, I'm sitting on a cactus today. But having said that, this line jumped right out at me, because here we are. We have the number 9 team in the country in Miami, who's having a terrific year, 8-1. Their only loss coming to number 4 Clemson, at Clemson. Derek King has been just absolutely a difference maker for this Miami Hurricanes program. He's given them stability at quarterback that they haven't had before or prior to, let's just say, in recent memory. Okay. And, 8-1 against a team that's 7-3. And you're looking at a North Carolina team that lost by 3 at Florida State in a game they fell way behind at halftime and stormed back, but fell short. Lost at Virginia by 3, and then lost to Notre Dame by 14 at home a couple weeks back. They give up a lot of points, Ron. That's the only thing that would make me hesitant to take North Carolina. You're talking about a Tar Heels team that's given up 53, 44, and 45 points this year. I mean, the one game they won 59-53 against Wake Forest. I mean, somewhere I just don't know if they'll be able to stop Miami is where I'm going with this. I do think this is going to be an extremely entertaining game to watch, but I'm not willing. I don't think I'm going to be willing to make a play here.
Yeah, no, you make a great point. And looking at the defense for Miami, you know, they don't get enough love in my view, only allowing 22 points against, ranked third in the conference. So as much as we're talking about that offense in Miami, the defense has been, it's not the Clemson or Notre Dame type defense, but it's number 3 in points against, and stopping the run to rank 5th in the 227 yards against passing. So, a little bit of credit for that defense, that underrated defense that no one's talking about. But you're right. You think of North Carolina, you think of that offense. And Chip, what's your thoughts on this game?
I like Ross. I believe it's going to be a high-scoring game. I've had a great run with this North Carolina team until they got up against Notre Dame, and I thought that they would really be able to stick with the Irish. I don't think Ross. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did the Tar Heels get shut out in the entire second half in that game? They certainly. They played with them, I think, for the first half. It was a pretty close battle, but I was disappointed in North Carolina not being able to stay with the Irish, but their offense is just tremendous, like you said. And Miami is a whole different school and a whole different team this year. Their program has been upgraded tremendously with King coming over from Houston. I'm more impressed with what I've seen out of Miami so far, because I didn't anticipate they would be this good. And North Carolina, I took a seat back, in my opinion, of them after what I saw happen against Notre Dame, because I really thought they were a solid play. I thought they were actually going to upset the Irish that game, and they fell well short. So I'm a little disappointed with that, but I expect a really high-scoring game on both sides. I don't think anyone can really stop this Tar Heel offense unless you're the Fighting Irish, I guess.
Yeah, no, you make a great point, because I watched that Wake Forest game. I had Wake Forest, and I thought we were dead in the water until Howell made that, or was it Wake Forest made that comeback to the backdoor cover. But they were down like 21 points in that game, I believe, in the first half, or somewhere throughout that game.
And then down 21 points in the fourth quarter. Right?
Yeah, that's it. I knew it was. I didn't know where. Yeah. I knew it was 21 points. I didn't know where.
They were down 45-24, and North Carolina scored 5 consecutive touchdowns. The last of which came with about a minute to go, and then Wake Forest got the ball back and scored an by the way. Yeah, that was a game I remember us discussing that, Ron, because you had Wake Forest plus the points there, plus 12.5.
Yeah, I think it was the only thing I had going that weekend that went right. But you know what? Looking at the value index here on the Raymond Report, we got Miami at minus 13.5 on our value index, and it's -3. So you're getting good, anytime you get these type of matchups and low numbers, and then you got winning teams, there's always, I think the value is on both teams when, depending what side of the fence you're on. The chance of covering is at 61% for North Carolina compared to 39% for Miami. Kogo's at 50%. We have 27-20 favoring Miami here. So I don't know. I do like North Carolina in this game. I just don't know. The thing with Miami that concerns me is the penalties. I remember it was one game, they had like 2 targetings in that game. And to me, when I see teams that are undisciplined and when I see targeting, that's the most, as a coach, it's one of the most selfish penalties that you want to take on a team, because you're putting yourself ahead of the team by making that big highlight hit. And it's just, give me a break with this. Football is now a pillow fight. No. It's, football, there has to be I find there's a lack of respect sometimes for the human body on a football field. And you got to remember, when you're hitting guys in vulnerable positions, that really gets me as a coach. And I'm an offensive coach, so I'm always going to lean towards the offensive guys, because the offense are looking at the quarterback, where the defense can see his receiver and can see the quarterback, and he can time his hit, where the receiver has no chance. He's just focused on catching the ball. But to me, if Miami can stay disciplined and stay out of the penalty column, at home, I'm sure they'll have a good chance. But that's my view on that.
I'll make a comment on the targeting. I think it's kind of interesting that they can. that the players, particularly in the NFL players are looking to sue the league because of the head damages and the trauma that they've had from concussions. But then the players go out and they target like this. So I think it's kind of hypocritical on the players' part, where the union's sitting there suing the league because of the head injuries, and yet they're causing it by their actions.
Yeah,
I think the smartest thing that college football does as compared to the NFL when it comes to targeting is they review each time a targeting call is made. Let's see if it's a legitimate targeting.
Yeah.
Sometimes, as we've seen over the last couple seasons in college football, they'll review a play and it looked like a targeting in live, but it wasn't once they replay it. Somebody may have came in with their shoulder. The running back may have lowered his head where it was impossible for the defender to do anything else but land where he did in terms of the tackle. So, the NFL, they call targeting and it's done. You know what I mean? And to me, I think they should adopt the college football rule. And not only can they reverse a targeting call, but they can also, it stops a player from getting ejected in college football. And also college football does a good job is when the referees miss a blatant targeting call, they'll call down and tell them to review the play as well. So college football does a better job with that, Ron, than the NFL does. And you're right, Chip. You would think the NFL, with all the concerns with they've had in the past and the lawsuits and these guys who are suffering from the concussions they've suffered well before all these rules came into play and before the NFL became more educated on how to prevent these types of traumatic injuries that affect players years down the road. You would think that they would follow college football in that regard. But again, I wish that was something the NFL would address.
Yeah. The two things I like about that, Ross, is that one, get the call right, because in a high profile game, a lot of these kids, that's where they'll get their opportunity to shine and maybe get ranked higher in the draft, right? And you don't want to take an opportunity away from a kid or a player who's given his his college career to make the NFL, and then one bad mistake causes them that not highlight, but that prime time advertising, like marketing. So let's call it what it is, right? You're showcasing your talent for 3 hours. And the second thing I like about taking the time out and reviewing it, it lowers the temperature of of everybody on the field, because emotions get so high that it's if you just ask to go right away and start playing, you're just asking for a Donnybrook, right? Yeah. A little hockey term there. I got to throw a little hockey in there.
Good point, Ron.
Yeah,
it's a real good point.
So it lowers the temperature. All right, man.
I will say this one more thing, okay? Now that we're on that subject, I will say that the NFL roughing the quarterback calls have gotten totally out of control. I agree with trying to protect your star players, being the quarterbacks and not leaving them vulnerable like they have in years past. But I don't know how you guys feel. It seems like 3/4 of these, in my mind anyway, roughing the passer penalties are ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's I understand why they're doing it. They want to protect the thing. But the one thing I will say is whenever I see D linemen like lunging at knees, that's where I got a problem.
Yes. But I mean, Ron, like, and I talked to Chip about this. I've seen too many times in recent weeks, a guy's just trying to block the pass. He's very close to hitting the quarterback, and instead of hitting him, he raises his arms to try to knock the ball down. And if he misses, his arms come down on the quarterback's helmet, and they call that, a blatant shot to the head. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but I just think I'm seeing too many of these that are very questionable calls.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, Virginia Tech. Let's take a look at this one here. No, the backyard brawl, that's the Pittsburgh one, right? Is there, I don't know if there's a name for this one, but rivalry weekend, this, I guess we're a little late for rivalry weekend when you think about it. All the Georgia Tech, VTech, Virginia. Now going in this game, the Hokies a 2.5-point favorite, over under at 62.5. Forecast though, going to lean with Virginia here, 35-31. looking at the Hokies' last 5 games, they're 1-4 straight up, 1-4 against the number. And Virginia 3-2 and 4-1 against the number. So Virginia, playing better of late, 3 wins, 4 against the spread. They've covered, but Virginia Tech, man, ever since that loss to Liberty, it's as if the wheels have fallen off. But keep in mind they played Miami, Pittsburgh, and Clemson, and that'll do it to you. Let's go to you, Chip. What do you like in this one?
Well, there's a lot to be said about this game, and I think I'm going to let my partner Ross Benjamin give you all the stats on this one, because I know he has a lot of information on this game. Ross, I'd really love for you to let the public know what's going on in this game.
Well, I'm going to keep it short. I mean, screw the stats. Okay, here's the thing: Virginia has gone 4-0 straight up in ATS in their last 4 games. Virginia Tech has gone 0-4 straight up in ATS in their last 4. And the team that's on the losing streak of 4 games is the favorite over the team that's on a 4-game win streak. Ron, help me out here.
Think like a bookmaker, Ross. Think like a bookmaker.
There you go. That's exactly what Chipper said yesterday. I'm glad, I got him aboard with that phrase too now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a monumental accomplishment.
Hey, you can still teach an old dog new tricks.
There you go, man. There you go.
Hey, don't get Rusty going. He's quiet. But looking at this game, though. When you look at it from a fan's perspective, it's Virginia Tech's running game, and Virginia can stop the run. They're ranked 4th in the conference, only giving up 125 yards, rushing yards against. So, if there is any type of miracle or not miracle, but looking at the game inside the game, if Virginia can stop the run, and Virginia Tech, let's face it, they've had some really tough games this year, right? 45-24 against NC State, that was a win. 38-31 against Duke. 56-45 against North Carolina. Just taking the Liberty. That to me, that's the game where you probably you're sitting on that one for like 3 weeks. I can just see the coaches probably going home, driving home at night, just saying, "Can't believe we lost to Liberty in that game as a 16-point favorite."
Yeah, me and Chip couldn't believe that either because we had them.
But hey,
I wasn't driving anywhere, but driving myself nuts. That's about it.
Yeah. So, you know what? The total 31-35. We have the total here at 66. It's just. And look what's the Kogo at. Kogo's at 44. Again, if Virginia can stop the run, it forces Virginia Tech to throw. And if Virginia can get ahead and force Virginia Tech to throw, it could be lights out.
So, Ron, Virginia won last year 39-30. Look at the head-to-head series in this matchup. They play annually every year.
Yep. So 39-30 last year, 34-31 the year before, 10-0. In 2017.
Yeah, but who won those games?
Who won those games?
Yeah,
though,
Virginia. Well, Virginia won last year, but
but Virginia Tech won 18 in a row before then.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. I get it. And I remember
point.
That game last year. That was an interesting win for Virginia last year. If you recall, the last couple of minutes was a pretty good ending, and it sent that win sent Virginia to the Orange Bowl. And then that's all she wrote for that. So. All right. We all know where everybody stands on that game. Let's take a look at the 121st game between Army and Navy. This one here obviously is going to normally play in the first or second week of December? Army Navy.
Yeah. Well, it's the second week of December. So
yeah, and it's going to be at West Point this year.
Yeah. First time on campus in like 60 years, Ron.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, looking at Navy on this game, obviously, Army, both teams are rushing offense. Army rushing for 296 yards per game this year, having a good rushing, averaging 5 yards per rush. For Navy, though, they can stop. They're not having trouble stopping the rush. 212 yards against. I think Army is clearly, to me, the team in this game. But the forecast has a low scoring game of 17-10. And if you're a high school coach and you love option football, this is the game you want to record and go through every play after, because from a technical point of view, and I've done this about 5 years ago when I was coaching high school football, I taped the Army Navy games just for the fundamentals of blocking of the option football. And let me tell you, it was one of the best things I ever did. from a coaching point of view. All right, let's go to Chip on this one. Chip, Army Navy 121st meeting. What do you like?
Well, I love it. I'll be watching it. I'll probably be in tears, and I'll probably be in tears because I think the Army gets upset here, and Navy has had a much tougher schedule, and I think that has a lot to do with it. I mean, Ross has alluded to before. I mean, he mentioned on one other program the schedule that Army plays compared to the competition that the Navy go against. So those statistics are a little bit skewed about their defensive rushing and ability to stop the run, that is,
Right.
and Army's ability to run the ball because they're playing against much lesser competition. I'm going to take the Navy here just because it's the Army-Navy game. I'm getting a touchdown, and I don't think Army's going to be able to rout this team and take them over. And you know, Navy has had a dominance in this series for just a couple of decades, and it's just recently that the Cadets have been able to come back and be competitive in this game. But the fact that Army's a 7-point favorite here, it sort of raises an eyebrow to me because of the scheduling. And I'd like the midshipman here.
Hey, you know what? Even though I'm Canadian, I served in the forces. I wore the Navy uniform because of that factor, and I've always wished, and I me and my buddies were always saying, how come we don't have football in our academies here in Canada? But finances dictate, and I don't think we'd be a good football. When I look at some of the guys I serve with, I don't see some of these guys playing football. No disrespect to those guys though. Good hockey players, I'll tell you one thing. We won a lot of hockey championships on the base challenges. But Ross, hockey. You remember that sport?
What do I know about hockey?
Yeah, they used to play that.
You keep asking me that, and you don't want my answer.
They used to play that game in the wintertime at one point.
Yeah, I know. That's January 13th. Hopefully that goes through. Ron, Army, their wins this year: Middle Tennessee State, Louisiana Monroe, Abilene Christian, the Citadel, Mercer, and Georgia Southern, which was a good win, 28-27. Georgia Southern's not a bad team.
Yep.
One common opponent, the Cadets played at Tulane. They lost 38-12. The Midshipmen played at Tulane. We're down 24-0 at the half and stormed back to win 27-24.
Wow.
Again, I'm going to just elaborate on what Chip says. Navy has played the tougher schedule, far and away, being in the American Athletic Conference. One of their non-conference games was against BYU. We know BYU is a pretty darn good team. So strength of schedule definitely heavily favors the Midshipmen. Now, they always say throw the records out the window when it comes to rivalry games, especially this one. And this is a textbook case of such in my mind. And, there's this series, Ron, I think you could look it up, has a long history of going under the total. Not a long history, but in recent memory, I think the last 10 or 11 have gone under the total in this series.
Oh, wow.
I'm just saying it off the top of my head. I don't have anything in front of me, but the only problem with that is it opened at 41.5 or 42.5, I believe, Ron.
Yeah.
42.5. It's down to 38. And when you see a total that low in college football, it's really hard to pull the trigger, when the clock stops on every first down. So again, I would have a lean toward Navy in this situation, Ron.
Yeah, 43.5 is what I'm seeing on our line. Oh, no, I'm looking at the wrong. Sorry, looking at the wrong game. I was looking at
open 42.5, down 38, I think.
Okay, yeah. The only thing I'm going to say to play devil's advocate a bit here, trying to make a case for both. Army played Cincinnati, and we know what Cincinnati, how good they are, right? 24-10. They beat them by only 2 touchdowns. So maybe that was probably their game of the year, playing this.
Yeah, and they scored with the one. They scored 10 points in that game. 7 of those points came on the first play of the game when Cincinnati fumbled and Army was a scoop and score. So that game really went, because I watched it. We both had Cincinnati, as a matter of fact, right, Chip, in that game.
You turned me on to
that. Game was not as close as the final score indicates. Cincinnati pretty much dominated that game.
Yeah, and the one thing about playing the academies, and if you've never played an option team, it takes you about a quarter to adjust. You can do all the scout team in practice, But when you've got, say a hurry up offense and they're doing it 10 seconds between plays and you're seeing different formations and it's assignment football. The one thing we always tell our players is when you play option teams, do not go chasing butterflies. You know what I mean? Because as soon as you leave your assignment, that's where they're coming. And boom, and a good coach will see that.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, but that's not going to be impertinent here because both of them are option teams that are pretty familiar with defending it. You know what I mean, Ron?
Yeah.
But
No,
you're
let's talk
right.
about
I mean,
Cincinnati.
yeah, exactly. When they're facing opponents that have a week to prepare, especially non-conference opponents that aren't used to facing that type of offense, it's a real difficult task, and you need to be very disciplined, like you alluded to.
Yeah. We have a good matchup here between the USC against UCLA. From a coaching perspective, you got Chip Kelly going in his third season now with the Bruins. He's 10-19. It's not like Oregon. It takes recruiting. He's trying to get his players there. And you got Clay Helton for USC in his 6th year, 44-22. Pretty good matchup of quarterbacks. Dorian Thompson-Robinson against Keaton Slovis, who's having a pretty good season right now. Looking at the line in this game, USC. Now, I thought I saw this line at maybe 3 earlier in the week. Maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and now it's down to 2, and I'm seeing 61.5 as a total. I got USC. The computer has 32.28 for the Bruins. Looking at the value index, minus 9.9 for UCLA, and I have minus 11 for the Trojans. Now, looking at some of my numbers here, let me see. Obviously, Chip Kelly type team is going to rush the ball very well. And, USC can stop the run. They're 5th in the conference, 150 yards against. This is, boils down to this. If Clovis, was it Kendon?
Slovis.
Yeah, Slovis. If he's on, then it could be a long day for the Bruins because, if you're falling behind and you're a running type program and you don't have the passing team to really catch up, you could be lights out early. So it's going to be on the Bruins defense and their secondary to slow down Clovis and the Slovis. I keep wanting to call him Clovis. I don't know why. To slow down that passing arsenal of the Trojans. And looking at last year's matchup, it was a 34-27 win for UCLA. Ross, what do you think of this game?
I think one team is better than the record indicates, and the other isn't as good as the record indicates. USC is 4-0 this year. Extremely lucky to win their first 2 games against Arizona State and Arizona. Matter of fact, the Arizona State game, they scored 2 touchdowns in the last minute of the game, the last one coming after recovering an onside kick to win that game 28-27, a game they did not deserve to win. And then at Arizona, who's winless this year, they pulled out a 34-30 win with a touchdown in the last minute as well. Go-ahead touchdown, I should say. Both of those games, they were double-digit favorites. They've been better in their last 2 games. But look, this is a UCLA team, 3-2. When they lost their opening game to Colorado, 48-42, everybody was ready to throw in the towel on their season again and say, here we go again. But now that loss doesn't look so bad with Colorado being 5-0 right now. Their only other loss came at Oregon by 3, and they were an 18.5-point underdog in that game. And they did play Arizona and Arizona State as well and won those games quite easily, for lack of a better phrase. And I think UCLA is the play here, Ron.
I agree. 100% agree with you. Looking at UCLA, good running team. Like you said, Colorado having a great start to the season. And, Southern Cal coming off I think this was like a Sunday game too, right? Last weekend. So a lot of, and coming in late throws off a bit of, the routine, schedule routine, but they played Utah, Arizona State. I agree with you, Ross. I like UCLA in this one. What about you, Chip?
I have to back a team with a coach with the name of Chip.
Great name, eh?
Hey, wait, let me write that down. Another one of Chip's handicapping theories. that and don't bet on teams he could play for, Ron. Write those down. Those are
duly noted.
Put it in your book, that 50 best secrets of handicapping. Add some more to that.
Yeah.
Well, I can be very profound sometimes.
I know you can.
But I think UCLA has enough offense to win this game. Like we said, they got the opening week. I really thought they were going to be a side against Colorado. Colorado's a lot better than I had anticipated. They got down big in that game and came back. I think they had the offense to do it here. And USC had that easy win against Washington State on Sunday. I don't know if anyone saw it with the NFL going on. They had 4 touchdowns within the first 6 minutes of the game. We're up 28-0 in the first quarter. And then really either put on the brakes or just couldn't do much the rest of the game. And they went through the motions. I think that may hurt them here. They may have been peeking ahead. I think UCLA, the bookmaker, is telling you they've got a valid chance to win this game outright.
No, I agree 100%. I really like UCLA a lot this weekend, and there it is. I'm out there on record. It's one of my top plays this weekend for sure. All right, let's take a look at the final game here between the Sooners, Oklahoma Sooners. Now, looking at the Sooners taking on West Virginia, Ross brought this to my attention last week. The Jekyll and Hyde West Virginia Mountaineers, 5-0 and 0-4, 5-0 at home, 0-4 on the road, and obviously that you're 100% bang on last week, Ross, on that game against Iowa State. Never showed up, in fact, but you got to credit Iowa State, a really good football team this year. And I was tough on Matt Campbell at the beginning of the year, and I'm glad he's able to prove maybe his doubters, his critics wrong.
So and I know one of those doubters.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year.
Yeah. That's
you know what his name is?
Who?
Yeah, yours truly, Ron Raymond.
That's what I said.
Oh, okay. I missed that. All right.
Yeah, I know. But it's good to see that the players are playing well, and Iowa State's having a really good year. And Oklahoma, after that, that loss to Kansas State and then that loss to Iowa State, you got to give Lincoln Riley. I've never in all the years watching Lincoln Riley coach football, I never saw him lose his cool like he did that night in Iowa State. That was the first time that he just pulled a nutty, and he was absolutely livid in that game near the end. But now looking back, Iowa State, full merits, winning that game. And, good on Spencer Rattler. This kid, I was really wondering at the beginning if he would have that, everybody's comparing him to Patrick Mahomes a bit. But, man, this kid has been nothing far but great since, that loss to Iowa State. Let's go to you on this one, Ross.
Yeah. Again, you bring up the Jekyll and Hyde West Virginia team, and if you want to give me better than 2 touchdowns with a strong home field like West Virginia has exhibited this year, in a defense that's throw the game against Iowa State out the window last week, because they did give up 43 in that game and they ran into a buzzsaw. If you look at their 5 games at home this year, in which they've won all of them, covered 4 and pushed on 1, the only push being against Kansas is a better than 3 touchdown favorite. They've only allowed a little over 12 points per game at home this year. Now, I understand they're playing an explosive offense in Oklahoma, but this is also an Oklahoma team last week in their game against Baylor. They had less than 300 yards of total offense. So maybe Baylor provided a blueprint on how to defend this explosive offense. I don't know. What do you think, Chip?
I think you don't have to be a genius to handicap this West Virginia team. Like we said, 5-0 straight up at home. The push against Kansas is a 24-point favorite or somewhere thereabouts. And Oklahoma, they go on the road, they get killed. They play at home, and now you're giving them 14 points. In a way, Ross, I know I lean toward West Virginia here, but in a way, I'm afraid that the number is so big that maybe Oklahoma is the side here. But the West Virginia defense has been particularly tough at home, and particularly tough at home against the run. I'm sure after last week's debacle, where they just got totally humiliated, maybe they were peeking ahead or thinking they had Oklahoma at home last year. But this team traditionally, Ross, loses 1 game a year at home and wins 1 game a year on the road. And they're following the same formula here. They should get beat, but I think they can stay within the number.
Yeah, no, you know what? Looking at the Sooners, pass offense, number one in the Big 12, averaging 327 yards against but they're up against the number one pass defense in West Virginia, who only give up 171. That's the game right there. The game within the game is going to be if the Sooners, and anytime you play football, the objective is you want to take the strength away from the other opponent and make them do something that they don't want to do, and that's run the football. They only rank 6th in the conference rushing the ball, and West Virginia on defense this year, you can do anything. The ranked number 1 on defense, number 3rd against the rush. I think if West Virginia can shut down this Oklahoma Sooner passing game and force Lincoln Riley to go to that run game, get a good lead, I think West Virginia plus 14 looks like a very good play this weekend. Unfortunately, the computer pick doesn't agree with me. He got Oklahoma 40-29, so he sees a high-scoring game. But I don't know. The last 5 games between these two teams combined, 0-5 to the under. Man, you know what? This will be a great game to watch. And I don't know if this could be from a standings point of view, looking at the let me see, the Big 12. I'm just going to bring up the standings.
Yeah, Oklahoma's going to be in the Big 12 title game against Iowa State. That's set in stone already.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So there's, even if West Virginia wins, they don't have a shot of.
Oklahoma's got the tiebreaker on Oklahoma State because they beat them head to head. Oklahoma State lost last week, which eliminated them.
Okay. So no, forget that angle. But it should be a good game. All right. Hey, you know what? Wow, what a show today. A little bit of we got a little hot under the collar. We brought in a little bit of policies. But the like Chip said, that Army Navy game, that's to me, this is anytime Army plays Navy, and just being a visitor when I go to the U.S. To the States, and I go to games, and I see the proud traditions before games when they salute and they bring in veterans. It's just I look at my wife and I get my hair goes up on my neck. Just get goosebumps of the pride that the Americans have with their academies and their military. So that to me is the highlight of the weekend. That should be a good game, no matter who wins, right? And like I said earlier, it's the game of football, right? So no, it's gonna be great. All right. Speaking of, hey, we got probably the 2 hottest cappers here. We do have the 2 hottest cappers on ATS Stats with Ross Benjamin and Chip Chirimbes. Chip, what do you got going this weekend in college football and the NFL?
Well, Saturday really has some plum games out there, and we were really starting to ride along. Had 9-2 in the last 11 college football releases, and I have a trio of games on Saturday. I'm looking for. I wish they were playing today, to tell you the truth. And so Cleveland was the best bet in the NFL on Sunday, so we're rolling along with our big games and just log on, follow the buy links, and we've got a pair of football winners up there for Thursday night, and looking forward to it. And I know Ross has been doing pretty well himself, particularly in college basketball and NFL football.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and great call on Cleveland. Ross, what do you got going, buddy?
Yeah, thank you, Chip and Ron, for the nice compliments. Anyway, I have a college basketball 10-star top play up right now at atsstats.com. That's for Thursday evening. I've gone 4-0 with my college basketball 10-star top plays this season, dating back to last year. I've won 9 in a row, meaning my college basketball 10-star top plays. You can get that right now at atsstats.com. Also, I have a winning total in the NFL game tonight. And my NFL totals this year, guys, 10-3 with my NFL totals picks this year. And dating back to last year, I won my last 3 NFL totals last year. So dating back to last year, I'm on a 13-3 run with my NFL totals. So I'll have that total up for you right now and at atsstats.com. You can also find me at rbwins.com. And back to you, Ron.
Yeah, and guys, you know what? I would encourage people who, if you've never bought picks before and maybe you're thinking, that's not what I do, give it a shot. Try it. If you watch these shows and you appreciate all the hard work that goes into these shows, and you appreciate the handicappers every day that come on here and we entertain and we have fun, and we're looking for to see if you guys will help us out sometimes too by getting our selections and seeing, and maybe change the way you do things a bit. And if we can help you get on, say, a good win streak, it might change the way you look at, what you thought before about buying picks from handicappers. And again, go look at the records of Chip and Ross, and you will see that, we document everything. And these guys, they win on a consistent basis. So again, give it a shot. ATSStats.com. Go to the pull down menu where it says picks, and I guarantee you will not be disappointed. And don't just do it for a week, or even if you just want to monitor it for a couple of weeks to see what it's like. I always say give it about a month, and then once you see at the end of the month if you make a profit, then hey, you know what? You'll see a big difference when you look at your sportsbook account. Hey, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask just quickly tonight, the game between the Rams and New England. I look at this game and I'm seeing the LA Rams, great defense. New England, they can't throw. And there's something tells me that if things don't go good for New England tonight, we're going to see a bag of trips like we've never seen before with Josh McDaniels. It seems that's what they have to do to get the offense jump started is trick plays. Just real quickly, what's your thoughts on tonight's Rams-Patriots game?
Go ahead, Chipper.
I think it's a definite under because of what you just said. I mean, the Rams have, I think, the number 2 defense and the number 1 against the passing. They've really accumulated a lot of offensive yardage too. I think the Rams are like number 4 in offense, but number 9 in scoring. They've really turned the ball over a number of times, which has hurt them. But I think this game plays to the under because the Patriots, of course, can't get into a shootout. Like you mentioned, I think Cam Newton's ability to throw the ball downfield is really, really weakened as his career has gone on. And if the Rams have to just stop the run and they can get to Newton, it could be a one-sided affair. But I think the way to go here is to play this game under.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I like the Rams personally. And looking at the Rams record this year, they can't get a winning streak going. Like I looked at their record, the highest streak, they always go to 2-win streak and then they lose, right?
Yep.
If they want to make an impact, they got the defense to really make a run in the playoff. But Goff has got to be more consistent. But I think you're right, Chip. I think the under might be the call here. Thanks. Sometimes you just want to pick your brains before you start getting into that one, right? All right, guys. Hey, great show today. You know what? I want to thank you guys to come here each and every week and do these shows. I appreciate it. And again, folks, don't forget, you can get Chip and Ross's plays along with myself and the Big Ragu at atsstats.com. And tomorrow, the boys will be back for Football Friday, NFL Football Friday. Always a fun show doing on the Friday, right, guys? Yeah. All right, fellas, have yourself a great rest of your day. Folks, if you enjoy these shows, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel by tapping that notification bell in the top right-hand corner. For Chip and Ross, I'm Ron Raymond. This was the Raymond Report, sports betting podcast for a false Friday. That's right. It's a Thursday. It feels like a false Friday. December 10th. Folks, as always, play those percentages and shop for value. We'll see you back shortly with another Raymond Report.